Hi Adam, thank you very much for joining us at Romanian Testing Conference in 2017. Your presentation today was about a risk questionnaire, and I would like to ask you, how does this transfer into a tester's work and approach?
Okay, so the risk questionnaire was an approach that I used when joining a new organization, and I didn't feel that they had a good understanding of the level of risk they were taking in the company, and they didn't really have a test strategy to speak of. So what I wanted to do was understand the risk profile of the organization and how much risk they wanted to take. So what I did was use a kind of questionnaire format from financial services to assess individuals' risk levels with their finances, and use that with the leadership team of the organization, and presented some questions around risk in software development to get them to gauge how risk averse they were in their software development. So I asked them questions around whether they would always prefer to release on time, or whether they would prefer to always make sure they maintain quality, or do they think that putting software in front of the customers and finding out and fixing issues in production was acceptable or not, and do they think they need devoted testers in the organization, or would they always prefer to get more developers into their agile teams? And getting the business leaders to fill in that kind of questionnaire helped me both to understand the kind of risk profile of the company, but also to give them an understanding that these were decisions that needed to be made, that their approach carried an element of risk, and we needed to make sure our test strategy was appropriate for the level of risks that they wanted to take. So it helped me to come up with a test strategy that was appropriate for that business.
How did the audience perceive your presentation from your interaction?
From the questions that came back, they found it very interesting. A lot of people said they thought it was a great idea for understanding the business and presenting these kind of issues to them. They thought it was a great format, being able to visualize the responses of the management team around the questions and show where there was inconsistency with their approach. For example, all of the business leaders were clear that they saw a need for specialist testing in the organization, and yet at the time there wasn't any specialist testing. All the testing was done by developers, so that showed an inconsistency, and so people found that really interesting, the fact that we'd highlighted these inconsistencies between their feelings and the risks they wanted to take, and the approach that they were taking at the time to their testing and their development.
What do you think should be the takeaway from your presentation to the participants?
The takeaways, well, I think the first half of the presentation was to just understand better how people perceive risk. Whilst we like to think that managers are making their risk decisions based on very logical analysis and reasoning, what actually is the case is that a lot of managers will be making their decisions based on their availability of stories to help drive their risk decisions. Like if they're aware of a problem that's happened in a similar area in the past, they're more likely to consider something risky. So testers naturally are more inclined to be risk averse than leaders because of that. And so that understanding that you're always going to have a difference between how testers perceive risk and how business people perceive risk based on their heuristics and what drives their perception of risk is really important to understand, and it helps to explain why testers get frustrated sometimes in their jobs. But at least if we understand that frustration, then we can work to avoid it. Yes.
Is this your first time at Romanian Testing Conference?
Yes, it is.
Would you be able to join us next year?
I don't know, yeah, but possibly if I can. Yeah, it was great. I've really enjoyed being here, and I just found it very easy. The organisation, getting picked up from the airport and everything like that was absolutely fantastic for someone who's never been to Romania before. I found it very easy. I've been very well looked after.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.